I've been lifting and doing cardio consistently for nearly 20 years, and if I could start all over from scratch, here's exactly what I would do as an older combat athlete. But before we jump in, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Now, most of my fitness goals have always been balanced against how I perform on the mats. If something seemed to detract from my performance in jiujitsu or Muay Thai, it had to go. And I applied that same logic to other areas of my life, such as sleep, nutrition, and even social interaction. This wasn't always an obvious decision either. There have been plenty of times when I pushed too deep into a certain program or style of training and my sports performance began to suffer. I put suffer in quotes because I'm a firm believer that even if you're doing the wrong thing in fitness, it's still a net positive when you compare it against doing nothing at all. And I'm grateful for all those experiences because it helped shape and mold the approach that I'm going to share with you today. The first thing that I want to impress upon you is that intensity is the most important variable in any strength and conditioning program. However, if you're just starting out, it'd be wiser to build a base first. As the old saying goes, the wider the base, the taller the peak. Most beginners wouldn't know the first thing about pushing to failure in a workout, not without consequences anyway. This is why for the first year or so of lifting, it's best to dial in your technique at moderate volumes and intensities. Most of the time, you should feel like you have a little bit left in the tank after each set. You'll likely be setting monthly PRs during this stage anyway, taking full advantage of those newbie gains. Enjoy this period because you're never going to make gains like this again. This is also a good time to expose yourself to a variety of movement patterns, creating global 360-degree strength. Now here's the trap that I fell into. I came up at the height of the functional fitness era. Everything was about movement quality and chasing arbitrary numbers on a movement screen, thinking that this was the secret to injury prevention and skilled performance. I often say this was the best and worst thing that happened to fitness. On the one hand, it led to a more cerebral and intellectual approach to training and coaching movement, which I think was a good thing overall. But on the other hand, it often led to paralysis by analysis and a whole lot of fear-mongering around certain movements and intensities that still persist to this day. I feel that had I not been stuck in this mindset for so long, I could have made much better progress in my 30s, which would have set me up a lot better in my 40s. And I believe that this would have taken my combat sports performance to a different level. I'm just grateful I snapped out of that mindset sooner rather than later. I spent so much time deliberating over these minute details that didn't really transfer to performance or health for that matter. My exercise selection was mostly sound, but I didn't really train hard enough to move the needle significantly. And that is the main change that I would make if I could start it all over. Once that newbie gains honeymoon period is over, it is time to stop fucking around. Now is the time to begin training with intent and challenging yourself at higher intensities. If I could turn back the clock, I'd be less concerned with 15-minute warm-ups and low-intensity mobility drills and more concerned with devoting what precious little training time I have to heavy lifts, plyometrics, and sprint interval training. Here's what a sample day might look like. You can start off with a light general warm-up on any piece of cardio equipment of your choice, such as the rower, cycle, fan bike, or treadmill. If you have a problem area that requires a bit of TLC, then you can certainly address that here, such as the ankles, hips, T-spine, and shoulders, but I wouldn't dedicate more time than one set of 8 reps max. From here, it's time to prime the nervous system with some jumping or plyometrics. This will set the stage for more intense loading, as well as improve your ability to generate high-velocity muscle contractions. Here, you're going to want to aim for about 10 to 40 ground contacts per session. There's a perennial debate in strength and conditioning about the efficacy and utility of performing the Olympic lifts. Both camps make compelling arguments. As with most things, I try and steer myself towards the center because I've found that that's where most of the wisdom resides. Of the Olympic lifts, I think cleans, jerks, and their variants are an S-tier choice for an older combat athlete and warrant the time required to learn them. Are they critical to your success? Absolutely not. You can get by just fine without them. But I believe there's inherent value in these lifts that'll develop your ability to express power, improve coordination, and increase your proficiency with the barbell. So after our jumping and plyometrics, we'll add in one of these lifts. We'll do 3 to 4 sets of 2 to 4 reps at an intensity of 75 to 80% of a 1 rep max. Here we're focused on moving the weight quickly and confidently. Once that's done, we'll move on to our max strength work. For this, we're going to use any of the big compound lifts. Most of the time, we're looking to hit an intensity of 85 to 90% of a 1 rep max. That's the sweet spot. That's going to help move the needle, but not fry your nervous system so that you're feeling flat on the mats. However, periodically, we need to fucking send it so that we can raise the ceiling. I like to test the 1 rep max every other month or so, and then use that value for percentages in subsequent training. When I'm training in that 90 to 100% of a 1 rep max, I'll typically do 2 to 3 sets of 1 to 3 reps. Next up, hypertrophy. Lately, I've been capping my working sets to 2 hard sets of 8 to 10 reps. This gives me some high quality stimulus without vaporizing my muscles with fatigue inducing volumes. It's also very time efficient. All of the above might seem like a lot on paper, but you can get all of this done within 45 minutes. Plus, it won't leave you feeling like dog shit on the mats. Lastly, let's talk about conditioning. For years, I spent so much time working on zone 2 because that's what contemporary wisdom was telling us. But this leads to the same problem: too much volume and not enough intensity. Endurance training has a host of benefits. It increases left ventricle size, raises stroke volume at rest and at submaximal workloads, lowers resting heart rate, and much, much more. And that's why it still remains a staple in my training. But that's just one side of the equation. Sprint interval training raises maximal cardiac output, improves oxygen extraction at higher workloads, improves peak stroke volume at high heart rates, and expands fast twitch muscle capillary density. For these reasons and more, sprint interval training should be a part of any well put together program for an older combat athlete. The practical takeaway is this: do 1 session per week at zone 2 intensities for 40 to 60 minutes tops, and 1 sprint interval day focused on short bursts of work ranging from 10 to 30 seconds. These bursts are done at max intensity. The rest periods will allow for incomplete or complete recovery depending on what you're trying to achieve. I hope that was helpful. The main thing that I want you to take away from this is that intensity is king. You can do more than you think. If you like this video and want to see more, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.